Hello there. Since I last did one of these, I've not really done a huge amount because despite the fact that my health is improving, the tiredness just is not going. So as soon as I do anything for more than a couple of hours, I'm knocked out for the rest of the day. So it's been tough, but I managed to take myself off to Suffolk a few days ago to go and visit Retro Gamer Thomas, and I also stopped in at Retro Realm in Ipswich, the shop that's run by Sega Zombie. He's doubled it since I last went, and it's as fantastic as ever, and Scott is just as lovely as ever. So I've got a few pickups from there, as well as what I've picked up online while I've been ill in bed. The other thing that I've managed to do while I've been out of action is, again, I was asked by Retro Gamer Thomas to join him for an episode of Flashback, which is the spin-off show from the Unofficial Controller podcast, where they look at a particular month and year from the past and talk about the games that came out around then and our experiences with them. I had played none of the games on the list, but I think I did alright. I've played a couple of games on the PlayStation, but again, just doing little bits here and there. But I've also seen, since I've been on here today, that I've been nominated by Richard Tappenden to join in with a video response for games beginning with letters of the alphabet. And I've got J, so I'm going to have a good think about games beginning with J before I can go and make any form of response to that, because that's a complete blank in my head. What begins with J? But while I've not been able to get out and about and do much, I have still had access to the internet, which means I've still been able to buy stuff, which means I've got some pickups to show you. So the first one I've got for you isn't the most exciting game in the world, but as you know, Mega Drive is my baby, and there's a handful of games that come in cardboard cases, and I found one that I didn't have for a decent price online, so I have now picked up Hardball 3. Unfortunately, I didn't pay the $4.99 that's on the bottom of the case, but it's still another one that's nice to have in the collection because I like the cardboard cases, even though 99% of the time Nintendo cardboard is way out of my price range. But then from there, I also managed to pick up, I've picked up something sort of from my childhood. It's something I remember playing at my cousin's house when I was younger, because I didn't have this console. But I have bought myself a new console, despite the fact that I've been saying for ages that I'm going to thin out the collection. And I have bought myself a NES. Obviously I've got the cable and controller and stuff down there, but I've picked that up for myself. And within that, I have also picked up a game for it, which is Super Mario Bros. 3, which, I may have mentioned this before, this is my favourite Mario game of all time. You can keep your Odyssey, you can keep your Mario 64. This is the one that kind of will always keep me coming back. I don't plan to massively collect for the NES. There's probably 4 or 5 games that I want for it, but I wanted to have them on the original hardware rather than just picking them up for emulators and stuff. I can do all of that on the emulator, but I like having the actual physical item, and yes, that is Nintendo cardboard, so I have some. I also stopped off, how long ago? Must have been a couple of weeks ago, at the recycling centre on the way back from somewhere, and they don't tend to have as much retro gaming stuff as they used to. I think a lot of people go in very early and pick it up. I managed to pick up a few original Xbox games. So I've picked up Soldier of Fortune 2, which I think it's a first-person shooter, but it's not one that I'm very aware of at all. It's made by Activision, which hopefully there'll be some similarities to Call of Duty in there. But I've also picked up for myself Commandos 2. And again, it's a military game. I don't know a huge amount of military games at all, so we'll see what that one's like. But I did manage to pick up one that I know I had from one of the PlayStations back in the day. Oh, I hate that term back in the day, but that just popped out. Ugh. And that is Tony Hawk's Underground. I enjoy dipping into a Tony Hawk game every now and then. I've never been particularly good at them. I've never got beyond the first 2 or 3 levels on any of them, but it is just fun to just dip in, get that high score or get those little collectibles, just to have a little bit of something different to poke my head into. That didn't sound right, but never mind. But my favourite pickup from the last month, I've managed to drop on the floor, so excuse the top of my head for a second. I think I've said before, much as I collect games, I am an awful gamer. So the ability to be able to cheat and things like that is quite appealing to me. So I've wanted one of these for a long time, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to pay over the odds and get myself one that's in box with everything that I need for it. So I've bought myself the Game Genie for the Mega Drive. And if you've not used Game Genie or not familiar with it, it literally like bypasses the game, and you can put in different codes to put different things in place in the game. So things like infinite lives or increasing the difficulty. I'm not touching that. And making yourself invincible, stuff like that, to kind of ease your way through games. I've had a little go on it. I've tested it out on Altered Beast because I'd never got beyond the 3rd level on Altered Beast. I've now finished the game, and I've seen the completely underwhelming end to the game, unless there's actually like the proper fantastic ending that you get if you don't cheat. But yeah, it was literally a screen where you're kind of standing at the end with a princess on the other side of the screen, and you pretty much go, hello, and then that's the end of the game. So that wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I'm looking forward to trying out more of my games with the Game Genie, so that I can say I've actually seen these things in games myself, rather than just finding video of other people playing them. So the other thing that I'm very keen on is books about gaming history. So when I went to Retro Realm, I found a couple. I've got the Ultimate History of Video Games, which I haven't seen this book before, but I'm very much looking forward to looking through it, just because I like reading about gaming history. But I did also find one that I've had my eye on in Waterstones for months and months and months, and I got it a hell of a lot cheaper than Waterstones, and that is Retro Gaming: A Bite-Sized History of Video Games. And it's obviously not as in-depth and as heavy as the previous book, but I just like reading about gaming history, so that's another book to add to the list. But the other thing I bought myself in terms of books is, as you know, I've been collecting the movie games for the Mega Drive. I'm currently going through the SNES, and I thought I'd have a look at what movie games are available elsewhere for other consoles. So I've got a couple of books from this guy. I've got the Mega Drive one and the SNES one, but I thought I'd have a look at the Dreamcast Encyclopedia as well, just to see what else there is out there. And I was quite surprised to find there's only about 8 games for the Dreamcast based on movies, and there's some that you can't get on other consoles. Like there's a Grinch game that I think was only on the Dreamcast at that time. So although there's not many, and I think I've already got 2 of them, they're going to be quite interesting ones to have a look into. So yeah, we'll look into that. But the main thing that I'm looking for at the moment is games based on movies for the SNES. And I've picked up a few, literally just a handful in the last month. I've got Lawnmower Man, which when I was going through watching all of the movies for the Mega Drive ones, that is a weird movie. I think I've said before that Jeff Fahey plays the Lawnmower Man, but the way he is at the start, he is pretty much like a template for how Ben Stiller plays Simple Jack in Tropic Thunder. He goes beyond going simple, but like the special effects for the time were probably fantastic. They're pretty naff now. I know the Mega Drive version of that has some 3D segments within it. I don't know if they're done in the same way on the SNES version, so that'll be an interesting comparison to make going forwards. But when I was going through all of those films, one of the best ones that I hadn't ever considered watching before was Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And the game is just standard beat 'em up, but the movie, if you've not seen it, is such a worthwhile watch, and I highly recommend it. It's one of the best films that I've seen with a game based on it from the 90s. That's a lot of caveats, but it is fantastic and really worth watching. But the other one that I picked up from Retro Realm, I said I would try to avoid getting Nintendo cardboard, but then I saw this and the price was very good for it, and so I've got myself Hook for the SNES. I've got it for the Mega Drive already, but it's one of those movies that, although it's a very naff movie, there's just that little spark that tweaks something in your head from back then that's great fun. I specifically remember, like, my main memory of Hook is there was like this catalogue magazine type thing that I had from Boots at the time, where there was just loads of puzzles, loads of little bits and bobs about the film, and I spent hours just reading that and playing the like the little mazes and stuff that were in it. And that's my main memory of Hook, rather than kind of thinking of that's not looking quite right, but I really enjoyed it. But that's literally all my pickups for the last month. So if you've lasted this long, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.